Have you ever been somewhere with your family and somehow you got separated or lost from them? You had to count on somebody else to help you find your family again. It's not only scary, it can be pretty embarrassing. Well, I don't know if whales get embarrassed, but I bet you this whale was pretty frightened when he was separated from his family for 26 days. Join me for this amazing, true story coming up. Our story begins on a sunny day far out at sea. A pod of humpback whales was traveling south together for the winter. Humpback whales are magnificent creatures that sing beautiful songs to each other underwater. In the whole world, there are very few of them, so each one is quite special. And they are intelligent. Every winter they travel south. Every summer they head north. And they always know the way. But even whales can make mistakes. One whale named Humphrey made a big one. He turned away from his friends and wandered under the Golden Gate Bridge into San Francisco Bay. I'm wondering why he chose to do that. Everyone was surprised to see Humphrey in the bay. People don't get to see humpback whales very often because they usually stay in very deep waters. It was a special treat to see one so close to the city of San Francisco. Humphrey was a spectacular sight, as long as a city bus and as big as 7 elephants put together. He would come up to breathe, appearing as if by magic, and people would stop whatever they were doing to watch him. Then Humphrey did something that no whale had ever done before. Instead of swimming back out to sea, he went the wrong way, up the Sacramento River. The big river became smaller and smaller as Humphrey traveled upstream. He was looking for the ocean, but it was clear Humphrey was lost. Hundreds of people came to see Humphrey in the river. They would stare out at the water, waiting for him to come up for air. Then, with a big whoosh, his giant back would appear, and someone would shout, "There he is!" He was an amazing sight. But something was wrong. Whales are supposed to live in the salt water of the ocean, not in the fresh water of rivers. A whale would die if it stayed in fresh water too long. Humphrey was in trouble. I'm really feeling some tension. I can tell now what the problem is in this book. Everyone knew that Humphrey had to be turned back toward the ocean, but no one knew how to do that. After all, something like this had never happened before. The farther Humphrey went, the more worried everyone became. They wondered whether he was getting anything to eat, whether he was getting sick, or whether he would beach himself in the river. One day, Humphrey squeezed under a tiny bridge. It was so small, no one could understand how he had done it. Now he was really in trouble. He was trapped. Oh my goodness. The river beyond the bridge was very shallow and narrow. It was so small, Humphrey could hardly turn around. There he was, a whale stuck in a tiny stream, right in the middle of a farm field. It was hard to believe. Something had to be done to get him out of there fast. Humphrey looked sick. The scientists knew he would die if he didn't get back to the ocean. Time was running out. Oh no, this really worries me. The people trying to save Humphrey would have to move fast. The scientists, Coast Guard officers, and many others got together to work out a plan to save him. They decided to bang long pipes together underwater and scare him back down the river. At the same time, they would play a recording that would broadcast underwater the sounds of whales eating. Maybe Humphrey would be so hungry and lonely, he would swim toward the sound. That sounds like a very good idea. It worked! Humphrey turned around and started swimming back down the river. Everyone was relieved, but the danger wasn't over yet. When Humphrey arrived at the little bridge, he stopped. He was afraid to go under it. He couldn't find a space big enough to go through. People kept banging the pipes. Humphrey seemed flustered. What would he do? As the pipes kept clanging, Humphrey became angry. He rolled from side to side and thrashed his great tail. People stopped banging the pipes. I'm glad they did. But Humphrey's friends wouldn't give up. They knew they had to get him past the little bridge. If they didn't, he would die in the river. The people trying to save him decided to make the space under the bridge bigger. They brought in a huge crane and worked through the night to clear away some of the old pilings. Wow. I'm thinking that this community of people were so kind and caring and very determined since they worked through the night. Would Humphrey notice the difference? The next day, the people began banging the pipes together again. Clang, clang. The boats moved closer to Humphrey to urge him on toward the bridge. This was his last chance. Everyone watched nervously. Humphrey bravely approached the bridge, but as he tried to swim under it, his head became lodged between the pilings. He frantically bobbed his head up and down and thrashed his tail to free himself. It was a terrible moment. The people trying to save Humphrey thought it might be the end. Humphrey was stuck. Suddenly, Humphrey lifted one fin way out of the water, almost touching the bridge. As he twisted his body, he broke free from the pilings and swam through to the other side. This gives me relief. There was a shout from the banks of the river, then another and another, until everyone was cheering. "Hooray for Humphrey!" they shouted. He made it. Humphrey the lost whale was finally on his way home. That makes me feel really good inside. A whole flotilla of boats and the clanging of pipes behind him helped Humphrey find his way down the river. Finally, Humphrey arrived at San Francisco Bay. Humphrey spent one whole day happily swimming around the bay. He did tricks for the people gathered along the shore to see him one last time. They oohed when he slapped his tail. They ahed when he leaped into the air and belly flopped back into the water. Humphrey seemed to be saying goodbye and thank you. to all his friends who had helped save his life. The people who had helped rescue Humphrey also felt grateful. Humphrey had taught them a lot about humpback whales. He had also become a good friend. Many times during his ordeal, Humphrey could have simply flicked his tail and overturned boats, carrying the people who were trying to help him. But he never did. He seemed to understand that they were his friends. Finally, in the late afternoon fog, Humphrey swam under the Golden Gate Bridge and back out to sea. Humphrey the whale had made it. He was finally home. Wow, what an amazing, amazing story. Humphrey the Lost Whale. Story by Wendy, Tokuda, and Richard Hall. Illustrations by Hanako Wakiyama. Thank you, guys. They were beautiful illustrations, weren't they? Lots of watercolors, very pretty, and a great story where we learned that if we come together as a community and we're working towards a goal, magical things can happen, can't they? Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoyed this incredible story, please make sure you let me know by hitting that like button or leave me a comment below. Also, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already so I can continue to bring you great stories. Readers are leaders. So until next time, we'll see you right back here at Reading Evermore, where readers reign.